Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Book of Faces. We're also live on YouTube as well. I've got my man Jacob Stahler in the house. This man is somewhat of an assassin here in the business world. You know, very good, tangible expertise, some nice comedy coming from your feed as well, entertainment, fitness, and, you know, just an overall good husband, good dude out there doing good shit. Jacob, welcome to the show.
What's going on, man? I feel like it's been a long time coming.
Yeah, we've been chatting for a while, always keeping it real, always keeping people in their lane, shelling out the value, and that's what I'm all about, man. I'm going to jump right into it as well. And I was just ranting on Facebook about how, like, everyone's a coach these days.
That's pretty wild, dude.
Like, dude, everybody's a coach, and I think that if you're looking to get a specific result, you want to talk to people that have gotten that specific result and they have a proven track record. And we were talking before we even came on the live about how I'm kind of a personal branding kind of dude. And it's like my face kind of attracts the business and I'm trying to help people get on camera and communicate. And your businesses are the complete opposite of mine. So let's talk about faceless businesses and why that's also important.
So, I mean, it's actually kind of a running joke in some of the networks I run in. Like, people will meet me and they'll be like, I don't even think I know what you do. And I'm always like, yeah, I own a couple of businesses. What do you do? Most people aren't really curious about what you do. They're very excited to tell you what they do. So I get over me really quickly and then give them an opportunity to say the things that they were waiting to say in the first place. But when it comes down to it, really, it's difficult to sell a business that you're the brand face of. And I think in some industries, you know, yours specifically, a lot of people are buying you and your capabilities. And it's like you've documented your path to kind of getting where you are. And that's part of the expertise of like, hey, I've literally done this before. Let me help you do it for you. And, you know, whereas in my businesses, that's not the goal. I'm not trying to
Right.
show them what I've done. I'm not trying to coach them up. I'm not trying to provide a service like that, whereas you are. And the nice thing about yours is, yeah, you can use your face and your brand to do it initially. But then once you start cranking out stuff, people will have to know it's not you doing all the fucking editing.
Right.
You have a team and they're doing it. And, you know, once you get past people needing to trust the person who started the business, it's very easy to sell the service. You know, you step back into the background, you hire a bunch of people to do what you do, and you can scale it. And that's a big part of being able to build a business you could sell. And in fact, I was just in Vegas over the weekend. I was speaking at a small mastermind group, if you will, for people who own service-based businesses. Most of them are plumbers or like storm restoration people.
Yep.
And one of the first questions I asked in there was, you know, how many people in here have 10 or less employees? And everybody did it, you know, 5 or less, half the room. How many of you guys are running 70% of your appointments? They all kept their hand up. I'm like, how many of you guys want to sell your business? And hands stayed up. And I was like, I hate to break it to y'all, but you own a fucking job. And no one likes to hear that because it's not exciting, right? But at the same time, if you were going to sell that business, what are you buying?
Right. Like even on mine, and you know me, I work with a lot of these acquisition guys and they're like, dude, you got a little bit of a ways to go. You got to develop this. You got to put an operator in place. Right now, you're the owner operator. It's working for you. This is how you're going to learn how to really grow, build, scale. And then you can apply everything that you're doing, especially with your media and your marketing, to any business vertical and help people become successful. Maybe eventually you're consulting for equity and then there's no money down. There's no risk. You go in, you help them scale. You're the marketing guy. You get a piece of the pie. So there's a lot of moves here with where I can go, but yeah, I got to do what I'm doing first. And I think people are just so afraid to admit where they're really at. And then that's why they don't get the tangible advice that they need to get where they want to go. Because they're not asking the right questions because they don't want to be honest with where they're actually at.
And that's part of, I think, the social media, I'll call it a disaster, if you will, because everybody wants to show that they're doing as good as, when really there's no reason to be there. You know, everybody's where they're at. If you ask me, Do I wish I would have got started doing what I'm doing now 20 years earlier? I mean, the resounding answer would be yes, right?
Of course.
Problem is, all of the wrecks I've had, all of the skin knees, all of the scars I've got, all the things I've done that led me to where I am now, it's what created the opportunity for me to do what I'm doing. So even if I would have had better mentors, if I would have been more focused or more confident, if I would have jumped in the pool sooner, who knows if I would have actually gotten where I am. There's no way to tell you that. And so you just have to own where you are in the process and understand that you're not going to know it all. You can't know it all. And moving forward, it's just something you have to go and do. It's not that simple. And again, it's okay. There was a point in time where I didn't have a Lamborghini and I was driving a Lexus IS 250 that I thought was the coolest shit on the planet. And man, I remember driving that car and having like an ego and like thinking people next to me in fucking Accords were peasants. You know what I'm saying? But that's a part of personal growth. And the thing about it was I've always had confidence that I'll figure it out. It doesn't matter where I am or what I'm doing. That's just where I am is where I am, and what I'm doing is what I'm doing, and that's my situation. And all I have to do is do it.
I do think, I love what you said there. I do think, and this is from someone, I just bought my first really nice car like 2 years ago, right? So my license was suspended for multiple years because I was an idiot and I drank and drove and got my license suspended in Laguna Beach. So I had like a 5-year period, almost I had to serve the full thing because I left California. So I got double punished. I had to serve the whole thing. And so I was literally sharing my wife's minivan. She's driving me around like a toddler for years and years and years. I'm catching flights to all these events and doing all this kind of stuff. And I finally bought that Porsche, the Porsche Taycan. And I remember the first couple days driving it, I was almost like scared to drive it because I'm like, well, I don't want to hurt it. You know what I mean? And now you were commenting on my post the other day and you're like, hey, you're going to need all 4 tires replaced, not just the one that you drove over something on. So I'm having fun with it. But I do remember a couple moments there where I noticed, and this is, I think, a car owner thing from my perspective. It's the one nice vehicle I've ever owned. It's the one nice vehicle I ever wanted. I crack jokes, see me the Lambo or the Ferrari jokes. It's just, they're just not my cars. I'm more of a, Porsche Pat, right? Yep. But there is something about a clean car, the way that it presents you and the way that it makes you feel when you drive it, and you show up different when you drive a car like that. And I know because I drive that nice car, and it forces me to think differently than I think when I was thinking when I was driving in the van or in a Honda Civic or whatever. There is a mindset shift that happens. There just is.
You could have just, worn a suit all the time, and every time you got out of the van, like tip your hat to your driver. And like you didn't have to tell people.
Oh yeah, I could have just acted like my wife was my Uber driver.
It's my mobile tactician van, and I'm back here doing deals.
That's right.
But like I said, that's like a typical social media move, right? It wouldn't be like, oh, my wife's driving me around because I got a DUI out of state and I don't have a license. They're like, oh yeah, I hire a driver because I could be more efficient if I'm in the back. Like, okay, man, like it's still a caravan. Like,
yeah, right. You're in the Odyssey, bro. So
yeah,
let's talk about that mindset shift though from the Odyssey, which we'll always use because it's got the sliding doors for the kids. And I mean, it's dangerous. Sliding doors for the kids. Got to have it, ladies and gentlemen, if you're a parent. But if you're, trying to make that jump from justifying, I think this is a problem for people. They want to talk themselves out of an elite mindset or driving a nicer car or speaking at nicer events or presenting themselves differently. They don't think they're worth it.
Well, and so the thing that's weird about that is success is different for everybody. And I was talking, one of my neighbors does very well for himself. And, he was talking about like cars and stuff. Cause cars and watches are things that I like. And if you do it right, on the level of the cars that I'm buying, there's ways to break even, make a little bit of money. So I'm not just dumping money into stuff. Mm-hmm. And he was like, cars aren't really my thing. I'm like, the thing about it is everyone has a thing. So it doesn't matter how much money you make, wherever you are, there's something dumb that you do with your money or something that someone else would think it's dumb that you do with your money. And That's part of your reward for what you're doing. Now, whether or not you're responsible when you're making those purchases, that's a completely different topic, obviously. However, there's no reason to do what you do and work as hard as you work without having some sort of a reward. And I was like, some people collect guns. I know guys that have $1.5 million worth of guns. You can't drive that down a road. And like looking at him, you're not like, bet you have $1.5 million worth of guns, man. Like,
you look like the guy that's got $1 million worth of heat.
Yeah, like, and but like that's what they do with their money,
right?
And it's not my job to tell them, hey, that's dumb. I'm not their financial advisor. I don't know what position they're at in life. I don't know what their bank account looks like. I don't know if they have a retirement fund. Hell, I don't even know if they have kids most times. But everybody passes judgment on these purchases like they're the end all be all of what's important and what's not. It would be different if I had like 7 kids and you could tell that they're malnourished and I'm driving around a Bentley. Like, probably have an issue there. But beyond that, it's not anybody's business. And I think everybody tries to make it people's business, or they try and leverage it. I'll never forget, this had to have been, I think 2019 was the first time I bought a car that was more than 200 grand. And I mean, it was something I didn't know I could buy. And I was kind of screwing around on the internet. I did some math, and I was like, holy shit, like I can do this. And so I did. And next thing I know, I don't know if you remember the post where I was making fun of how people park at the gym.
Oh, dude, yeah. You've been doing that for a couple of years now. And they do park like dog shit.
Well, so there was this like Porsche Boxster, and I'll never forget it, at the Lifetime over in Alliance Town Center area. And it was sometimes parked in like 4 different spots. But I went from taking a picture of that car from like inside of a Ram truck or my F-150 to doing it into like a GT63S like Benz. And I think the second day I made a post, someone was like, you're only posting this because you want to show off the dash of your car. I was like, this is like the 70th post I've made like this, number one. But number two, so it's okay for me to take a picture from inside my car if the dash doesn't impress you. Like, help me understand that. And like the person just started like laying into me. I blocked them. Then they came and commented from their second profile. So I had to block that one too.
They clearly have a history of doing this.
It's so much effort.
It is.
You know what I'm saying? But it's at what point is all of that okay? If you didn't come from anything and you buy $100,000 car, people want to high five you. Then you buy $250,000 car, the same people that high fived you over $100,000 car are now calling you names. And it doesn't, why does it matter to them? Why is it important? If cars are my thing and that's what I want to spend on, people don't know that like 90% of the time walking around, I wear a $6 V-neck that's 2 sizes too big and basketball shorts from 14 years ago that don't have a string and a ripped pocket. But like all of a sudden I'm this epitome of something because I have a symbol of something that they think that dictates or flags.
And for someone like you, and I'm an interrupter, but I want to take this because there's a line here, there's a hole here that I see. And people like you that aren't like content creators, that aren't like online telling their story all the time. It's like people don't really know you that well. So they only see what they see. And so they judge you 100% based on what they see that you show. And since your companies aren't really reliant on you to make content or this or that or the other thing, I've noticed that in the business space, there's like the content creators that run companies, and then there's like everybody else. And I think everybody else, man, I'll tell you what, they're doing a lot of things right because they might even be using content for their companies, but they're not involved in the content.
They're not in it. Yep.
So there's really 2 ways to go here, and it can be hard to see what's this person all about when they don't really like tell you their story.
I would love to like do a reaction video where it's like some random stranger just scrolls the past 7 days of my Facebook content, and then you ask him like, "So tell me about this person."
Right.
I think I would be.
What do you think of this guy?
Terrified. Yeah, like what do you think this guy is all about? And like I feel like they wouldn't be able to put a sentence together. I think it would just be very confusing.
But I think that's the fun thing about guys like you is you're out there living your life. You know, I see you post pictures, you and your wife are doing this or the other thing. It's great to see. And you leave everybody alone and you do your thing. And, you know, you're obviously very successful at it. Everybody around here, you know, we all enjoy your posts, especially in the local DFW scene, right? Because that's a pretty tight knit scene, like investors and business owners and that. And it's a really supportive scene. It's why I moved here. But it's just like, I think that when people aren't in a circle and they're trying to come into it, they can start off negative because they feel like they're not a part of the party when they should just be confident and ask for help. I think there's this big separation of entrepreneurs and business owners. They think a certain way and everyone else in the world doesn't think like that. And I've noticed it's getting harder and harder for me to communicate with everybody else in the world and easier for me to communicate with people like you.
Well, and so the hardest thing I think is that I think everyone thinks that you're automatically supposed to be accepted by walking in the door somewhere. And I don't know where that became a thing because at no point in my life have I ever walked in anywhere and everyone was just like, "We're so happy you're here." Like it doesn't work that way. There's a lot of feeling out that goes into figuring out if you fit somewhere. And I'm in quite a few different like networking things. And one of the biggest red flags for me are people that come in very loud. I've got this and
like
we offer
Pat
this
Hilton.
and we do this. And, well, the difference between like having a presence and like being somebody that isn't afraid to talk versus someone that comes in as like, I do this and we're good at this and we're the best at this and we offer this and hit me up for this. And like, there's not a single time that I've ever seen those people be who they said they were or deliver what they said they could deliver. Like the loudest person making the most stuff, saying the most things and being the most loud, never seen one of those deals go good. How can you possibly have that much free time to talk about how great you are, how good everything you have is, if you're actually doing any of the work? You just completely missed me with that shit. Mm-hmm. And it's the biggest red flag. And I have this bullshit meter that's still relatively undefeated. And I'm the first one to call people out because I don't need them to buy anything from me.
Correct.
And so a lot of people that are full of shit, like they don't really engage with me very much because I'll go down a black hole and find shit about you from 16 years ago so I can ask you about it. The biggest point is just to protect yourself from people online that could take advantage of you because everybody online wants the quickest way to make a ton of money without having to do anything. It's crazy, you know, oh, there's scam running on and this scam and this person, that person. And they all run through all of the same networking groups. They run the same scams against everybody, you know, and it seems like it never ends and no one ever calls them out.
Right.
And it's wild to me.
Dude, it's crazy.
I just don't understand it. And, you know, people bounce around and they move from thing to thing and shiny object to another shiny object. And then they get behind the 8 ball. Then they need money. Then they're doing stuff that's in the gray area to try and raise cash to pay for old bills for shit that they fucked up before. And next thing you know, it's a Ponzi scheme. I mean, but no one knows how to do any vetting or no one, whether or not they know how, they choose not to. We'll choose that. You know, people are just like, oh, I got introduced by, so this guy's got to be good.
Right. Right. And as someone who's like the announcer guy, and I just made a thing about this, like Coach has gone wild. I did a little stream, ran my mouth earlier about it. And it's like, there's so many great people out there. And it really kind of sucks for the great people because if you're trying to work with great people, sometimes, and a lot of the time in my experience, someone's doing really great shit 4, 5, 6 straight years. And then something pivots the wrong way. And now you're associated with this person that went rogue. And now your name is attached to, and it's like, well, wait a minute. They weren't doing that when I was around because I wouldn't have tolerated it. And then once I wasn't around, it went left, it went sideways. And so it's like, it sucks when you are trying to run in circles and someone does great shit for a while, helps a lot of people, and then they go AWOL. It's like, well, what am I supposed to do about that to keep my integrity? It's a challenging thing.
Well, I get asked a lot of times because I'm like an enigma most places. I don't really like to talk about myself. Not because I don't have anything to say. It's just, I don't know. I have to do what I do all day. I don't want to talk about what I do outside of doing it because I've already done it. And so, you know, it's like My wife and I, we don't talk about business very much. Like her parents have always found it really odd that she doesn't know a lot about my business. But we don't sit down and I don't talk about work. I already did work. When I hang out with her, I just want to hang out with her. You know, I'll troubleshoot. She's in a very high like leadership role where she's at. And I work with her through some of the leadership issues that she's going through because this is the first time that she's ever had to manage something as big as she currently is. And I like doing that. It's like a mentorship thing. It's a kind of a bond that we've developed, and it's kind of something I look forward to from time to time. But as far as like, you know, what have you done? It's just not important to me. It doesn't define who I am as a person. And every time I hear that, I think about the movie Anger Management, where he's like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "I am, and I do." No, that's your job. Like, who are you? There isn't a way to answer that question, and it's a trap. And that's why he ends up getting pissed off, because you're the sum of all of that.
Right.
And so if someone were to ask you, you know, what do you do? It's like when, like,
Right.
like in the mornings, I go to the gym. At lunch, I eat lunch. Like, it's just an odd question. And if you think about all the small talk bullshit that everybody wants to go through, half the time it's like a one-upper situation. Oh, you know, I do this. We did this much revenue. Fuck, I care about your gross numbers.
Right.
Like, that's not important to me. Oh, you took a picture of a $400,000 check. Like, you just sold a house. Your commission on that because it was a wholesale deal is $4,000. Like, we don't. Showing us a $400,000 check has no context.
It
But like,
doesn't.
people will post that shit up because it gets a lot of likes. And I don't. I've reached a point in my life where I just don't fucking care if you like me or not.
Right.
It's just not important to me. It does. There's not a single person that will ever watch this video that writes my paycheck. And as long as I go through life and I'm respectful of others and I do what I expect people to do to me, and I'm righteous and I keep moralities, I don't call people names, I approach everything from a level head standpoint, there's not a single person at any point anywhere in my life that's going to be able to tell you I wronged them. And that's the only thing that's important to me.
Right.
You know, do you have to like me? No. Can you think I'm an asshole and you don't like my approach to life? That's great. Have I ever fucked you over or lied to you?
Nope.
If the answer is no, we're good.
Right.
And so
I
that's
love
all
that.
I live my life by.
Dude, I love that. And one thing that really stood out, and this should be like a motivational quote card on your Instagram. It's the social media CEO side of me. No one watching this video is going to write my paycheck.
No.
Ooh, man, that's a presentation slide right there from Jacob Stahler. Quote the man: "If you get so good at what you do that you can hit Facebook Live and you can go, and the people on the other side of the video aren't even on your mind, you're just having a conversation, you're serving at the highest level, and you know you're going to attract business no matter what anybody says," that's when you've reached the point of, in my opinion, a really high level of execution and performance.
Well, so, I mean, if you think about this even just from a logic or reason stance, and you look at people who have performed well everywhere, you know, there's plenty of people that didn't like Michael Jordan. There's a lot of people that don't like Kobe. There's plenty. I mean, there's lots of people that don't care for LeBron. The thing about it is, you can't please everyone. It's literally impossible. And you will actually end up losing everyone trying to please everyone because it's too hard. So if all you're doing is being true to who you are and you're doing things that make the most sense to you, it's the only thing anybody can ask of you. Now, the part where people get in trouble is when they get staunch in all of their positions and opinions. My opinions are fluid 100% of the time. And one of the big things that I get teased about is I actively seek out being wrong. I'm really interested in learning something I didn't know when I woke up. And it doesn't mean it has to be something business related. It could be anything. But if I can get challenged and I can look at it and I can say, okay, I can understand that. Like, how does it apply to my opinion? And did what they say do enough to change the way I feel about it? And that's what an opinion is, right? Mm-hmm. Arguing fact is a completely different process. Arguing opinion is it's very subjective. So if you would have asked me about my race relation ideas or opinion on LGBTQ stuff 20 years ago, that guy answers the questions differently than the guy sitting here today. Why? I've had so many conversations about so many topics where I go into them wanting to hear the other person talk, not about prepping what my response is to what they're saying because I need them to come to my side. I already know what my side is. So if I'm actively trying to get information out of them for their position, it arms me much more than it arms them because they still don't have my position. And that's what a negotiation is. If I can get the person to talk a shitload, I get a lot of information out of them before I even have to apply anything. And in that time, I understand what's important to them. I understand which topics are the sticking points for them or which ones they're the most passionate about. And then you can hone in on that and you can have a back and forth that's respectful about those pieces of information. And you're going to learn stuff that you didn't know. But there's a lot of people that just don't give a shit about that part. Like, oh, I disagree with you because you're a liberal and you're this. There's times I'll post a political status and in the comments, I'll be arguing both sides against different people.
Right.
Because it means I understand the topic well enough to posture on both sides. And at that point, I think it's okay for you to develop an opinion because you should be able to argue the counterpoint. And that's why they do that when you're going through school and you get into debate. They're not asking you, like, which one do you believe? They're like, your counterpoint, you're going to develop an argument based on this, and that's that. And you have to go and learn the subject enough to argue the counterpoint, whether you believe in it or not. And nobody is built that way in today's society. You know, I spend an hour a day learning a language I don't know. Someone else is watching Netflix. But then they want to have what I have or be where I've been, but we don't do the same things. We don't arm ourselves with information the same. We don't enter into conversations with the same goal. And those are the things that are most important. And I couldn't imagine how different the world would be if they had this type of platform for communication in the 60s, in the 50s, in the 40s. Because you think it's all hive mind back then, right? How does someone in Chicago talk to somebody that's in Idaho in the 1940s? You can't do it. And so we have all of the things that went on 1940s, 50s, and 60s, and it's all isolated. There's no collective of any kind, but there is now. And they use these collectives for like weird, nefarious, like information placement. It's weird to see the way that links are and headlines are done. And people don't even click the link. They just like the headline and are offended by it. So they share it. And I'm guilty of it. I've done it.
Me too.
Like, I'm not saying that I'm the smartest man on the world or on the planet. I've done it. And you see what happens as a result.
Yep.
And so, like, I really feel like if people want to perform in life, they have to put down their own natural ability to want to fight for their point of view and really immerse themselves in everyone else's. Because one of two things will happen. One, you're going to learn things that change the way that you believe. Or two, you're going to learn things that make you hunker down into what you already believe. And both are good results. Because being wrong is not bad.
No.
It means you learn something.
Dude, straight fire, man. You're just sounding off. I love it. That's the whole point of me doing these is how am I going to help people communicate their message, which, like we talked about, is what my company does, if I'm not helping people communicate their message every day? Like, how am I ever going to be a real consultant that builds a system that, like we said, doesn't necessarily rely on my face all the time, that is a real system that people can use, and I'm in another room and there's people doing their thing, communicating their message, and it's a real big thing that has helped tons and tons more people than it already has. If I'm not constantly communicating with people, getting different points of view, bringing people together, creating conversations that can really impact the world. And I think a lot of people want to be speakers and they want to be coaches and they want to run companies and they want to be founders and CEOs and they want the money and they want the abs, but they're not putting in the reps, bro.
No, one of the things I think I appreciate about your approach is you're very transparent, I think, with where you're trying to go or where you're trying to be in life. You're not trying to have all this money because there's all these things and stuff that you want to acquire. It's like you enjoy doing this, like this content, you like doing it. And it just so happens that whether or not you're good at it, it's going to depend on how far you can scale it and how much revenue it can drive. And there's plenty of people who do the same thing that you do that charge 4 times as much as you do for the same exact product. But it's just like a testament to where you are and how you're trying to apply it. Because I don't think if you were to have 100 more clients than you do now, I don't think you're changing your price or changing your margin, because everything you're doing is repeatable. You're gonna add content teams. They're all gonna cost the same amount of money, and there's a segment of a number of clients that this team can help. And if you just rubber stamp the same process 75 times, the margin for each content team is identical.
Right.
The only thing is now it's compounding,
Mm-hmm.
and it just makes it a lot easier for you to produce what you're looking to produce, so you can step back and work on a business instead of in a business. And as long as you keep your eyes on the prize for that kind of stuff, it's very easy. The thing that you have, the whole renting out an additional house so you can stage it all up for like content creation, I don't know of anybody that's done that before. Like, I know people that have like sections of their house that they live in that they do stuff like that. Like having a completely other property, I don't know anybody who's done that yet.
Isn't that cool? And like, you can even come here and stay here. We have a client, Lauren Bateman. She's a YouTube guitar instructor. She's got 400,000 subscribers, and it's more like long form guitar coaching, like free tutorials. And she built this amazing following. And so we're doing all of her vertical short form across all the other platforms. She came here, stayed for a couple days. We recorded like 230 reels. So she's set for like multiple months at a time. And it's so much more convenient for someone at that level to come in for 2 days, bang the whole entire project out, and have it ready to deploy instead of needing to think about it every day. That's why she hasn't done it in the past. She doesn't have time to like stop the whole guitar system, and she's got physical locations that are teaching people at guitar school and all this stuff to do like business style content. And so I think it's applicable to a lot of people.
People always ask me, because like I'll get into a habit where I'll like post a video 5 days, 6 days in a row.
Right.
And I won't post anything for like a month. and people are like, where have you been? And like, I'm busy.
Right. I was working.
Don't have anything to say.
Right.
Like I don't have anything to say. A lot of the videos that I post up are real time. They're usually in a gym parking lot or after I got home from the gym, and it's a result of whatever I thought about while I was en route. And I try and dissect, like, people laugh at me. I do hot yoga twice a week. Do you know how much thinking I get done during hot yoga?
Dude, hot yoga is hard. I don't know who's laughing at that. That stuff is not easy.
Well, just because I'm a guy that does yoga, and apparently that's weird.
They clearly aren't DDP fans.
That's also true. I have an hour in there, and I know all of the movements. And so as I'm going through it, like, there's been times where going in there, I didn't want to go in because I have anxiety about stuff that's going on. And it's like, I got to do this right now. But the reality is I can't do it right now. I'm just worried about this thing. And so I have this weird energy where I'm like, okay, I can't go to yoga today. I need to go sit at my desk. Being at my desk doesn't fucking fix it. It makes it no better. So I force myself to go. And when you're in the hot yoga room, your phone can't be in there. Like, you can't. There's no electronics. Doesn't matter what happens. And I turn the notifications off on my watch, and I go in there, and for an hour, it's just me and that. And sometimes, man, the first 15 minutes is me fighting to get my head right. Because I need to center myself, and I need to calm the fuck down. And people are afraid of doing that. Like, no one wants to be alone with their thoughts. That's why everyone's so distracted. You know, the minute you're alone with it, you got to sort your fucking closet out. And you got to put it all back in order. But everybody has this incessant internal like dialogue that's negative. There isn't a single person I know that when they're frustrated, their internal dialogue is positive and forward moving. It's always negative. And the thing is, I understand how to recognize when that's happening. That's not to say it doesn't happen, and it does. And there's some times where it goes on for a couple hours before I catch it. But I catch it, and I catch it quickly. It doesn't take me into days of despair or whatever, but I have to catch it and I have to reframe it. Because it's like, oh, you know, this is happening. I don't know how to fix it. This is happening. I need to figure out how to fix it. I've never done this before. I don't have a system for it. I don't know how to plug this hole in the ship so it doesn't fucking sink. But doing nothing is also a decision. So I can do this, or I can also do this, which is 0. And it's going to sink if I do nothing. I'm not going to go out there with a fucking can opener and be like, well, if I make the hole bigger, maybe it won't sink, because we know that's not going to work. So at minimum, I'm sticking fucking dish rags in it, right?
Yeah, I mean, you got to do something. You got a hole in the boat.
Yeah, like the stream that's coming in is now a drip that's coming off the rag. And it's like, okay, the rag doesn't work because it's still letting water through. What can I do instead of a rag? What's around here? And now I'm on a fixed like finding mission rather than this, oh, woe is me type shit.
Right.
Whatever situation that you're in, it's just your situation in that moment. It isn't good. It isn't bad. It isn't anything. It just is in the moment. And you can go back and look at how you got there once you fixed it. But talking about how it happened while it's still going on is not forward moving. It's making you frozen. So the only thing that should be generating is activity. In order to have forward moving activity, internal dialogue's got to be, I got this. I'm going to figure it out. I know I can go here for this information. I'm going to look here. I can look this up. I can call this person. And then once the fire is out, that's when the fucking, what is the head fire guy called? The inspector dude. But he comes to the house.
The fire marshal.
Yeah, this person. The fire marshal. I'm looking for it. Fire Marshal Bill.
Fire Marshal Bill. Yeah.
That's when the fire marshal comes and he's like, oh, someone fell asleep with a cigarette. Like, the fire marshal doesn't walk into the fucking burning house and he's like, let me figure out how this fire started. Hold on. He doesn't care. The fire has to be out. And so, like, when your world is upside down and shit's going fucking crazy, it's more important for you to put the fire out, which means you have to go into action. You have to believe you're capable. You have to jump in and do it. And you can't be sitting there like, oh, I've never done this before. I've never seen this problem. I don't know how to fix it. Because there's lots of shit you've never done before. How did it turn out when you built your first piece of IKEA furniture?
Oh, dude, I still can't stand building IKEA furniture. My wife will like order something and she'll be like, now should I call Steven, the handyman, or can you do this one? I'm like,
yeah, no.
This one, but the other two, he's going to have to stop by.
You're going to have to call a neighbor because I'm not doing this. But the thing is, it's like, I always use that. I've been using this IKEA analogy for a long time now because it made me laugh. But the first time you put one together, if you order the same thing, it's going to be very fast for you to build it because now you've done it.
Right.
But there's, my wife used to get so pissed at me. She used to come into my office and be like, hey, I need help doing this. And I'd be like, what have you tried? And she'd be like, well, nothing. I'm like, so, like, you don't even know if you can do it? But she was like so used to or conditioned that from growing up that her parents always helped with stuff. Like they would actively jump in and like and help her with stuff. And with me, it's like go try a couple of things and come back, And the thing is, she'd end up completing it. But it always turned into a joke because I'd be like, what makes you think I can do that? She's like, well, you figure everything out. I'm like, so if it's also my first time, I have to be subjected to something that I didn't order and you want me to help you with? Like that sounds like unusual punishment.
Well, and dude, even as a parent, like I'm bad about that sometimes with my kids, is that they'll ask for help or they want something. And you know what I mean? I grew up with an older sister and a younger sister. I was the only boy. And now I have 2 daughters. Like, isn't that always how it works? And so I have this like soft spot for like wanting to do everything. And my wife, being from like the teaching background, she's always like, no, you got to let them do it on their own, dude. You got to quit doing this, and this always for them. It's so annoying. And I'm like, oh. But she's right. It's like, you got to let them freaking put their feet in the mud, man. Of course they're going to get dirty.
Well, one of the things I always say about this too, because, if you had a hard time growing up, I mean, and I know your story. I don't know if everybody watching knows your story, but, living in a car and trying to chase a dream, there's a lot of resilience that you build up in a lot of situations that you've been through that were routine would throw somebody for such a big loop that they may not be able to come out of it. And so when you go through all of that stuff and you get to a point in life where you can buy your Porsche for the first time, right? All of the resilience that you built up, all of the systems that you've developed for dealing with failure is the reason why you're standing where you are, sitting where you are, doing what you're doing. It's because over time, you have figured out how to bounce back. And so parents that have gone up through that and become successful, the first thing they do is they try and put a bubble around their kids so they don't have to go through the same type of struggle. The problem is that struggle that's what created the result. So you have these kids that are getting full on protected from every possible bad thing known to man, and then you ship them off to college. They have no system for failure. And now they're in the real world. They haven't made any decisions. They weren't doing anything for themselves. They weren't getting knocked down. They weren't allowed to get frustrated. And now they're at college. I mean, you can't. You're 3 hours away.
Right.
What are you going to do?
Yeah.
And so no one wants to sit there and watch their kid like struggle. It's like when you have a dog and you're training them how to walk on a leash. It kills everybody to put that little like the choker collar or whatever on her that pinches their skin, because no one wants to pinch their puppy's skin.
Right.
What it's teaching them is this behavior gets this result. If you don't want that result, stop doing it. And then that choker chain goes away because they get conditioned for it. It's the same thing as an adult. You have to condition yourself to be able to handle getting knocked on your ass. And if you don't have a situation where you're allowing for that, you're going to never have any resilience, and it's going to be very difficult for you to succeed in life because nothing is easy. I don't even know nine to fives that are easy. Like, people are stressed the fuck out working in a call center.
Yeah. And they got college degrees and they're in debt. They paid a lot of money. There was just a video, some girl on social media, and she was like, does anyone else have a 5-year master's degree and they can barely pay for groceries? Am I the only person? And she was like really emotional. It was like a heart-wrenching video. I felt bad for the girl. And she's like, I did everything right. I passed my classes, had straight A's, and now I can't afford anything. This can't be what I signed up for. Sad to see.
Well, and again, I think that goes back to like messaging from a national or a global scale. There's these things that you're supposed to progress through, then you're entitled to this result. There's probably plenty of people that are in the same situation as her that have taken bigger gambles or bigger risks or worked harder or didn't communicate in the same manner as she did during job interviews. You know, there's a certain, I'm not going to say type of person, but there's a certain personality type that I think is a victim of every circumstance. And there's two views of life you can have. You can have a window view, which means the world happens to you, right? And you're not in control of any of it, and you can blame everything that happens onto you to something that's on the horizon. Or you have a mirror view, and you understand that the world happens because of you. And if you can embrace that things happen because of you, then that means that you're in control of everything that happens to you from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep. Well, I can't control whether or not someone hits me in a car. Yeah, but you control what happens after that. And I was in Orlando a couple weeks ago talking to a men's accountability group. And I was like, when you guys get into a car accident or your tire pops or whatever, what's the first thing you do? They're like, call the cops. I was like, I'm calling somewhere else to fucking come get me. Someone else saw me wreck. They called the cops. Cops are coming. I need to go do what I'm fucking doing. I don't need to ride with a busted down car to the fucking shop because I'm not going to sit there for 3 hours. It's not going to fix it. I still have stuff I got to go do. And everybody started laughing. I'm like, but that's the difference between me and anybody else. Like, they're going to be like, oh, I'm going to call and cancel this appointment. I can't do this now. My car is wrecked. No, I'm literally telling a Lyft driver to pick me up on the side of the fucking highway because I got shit to do. And while I'm in the Lyft, I can make as many fucking phone calls as I want trying to figure out how to solve my car situation.
Yeah, standing there isn't going to help you. Right.
Yeah, stand on the side of the road and waiting for a fucking tow truck does nothing for me. It doesn't serve me at all. And people will mope around and they'll do this and they'll do that. And they'll have 2 days where they're not as effective or they can't get stuff done or they're calling out of work or this is a problem. I don't operate like that. I will figure it out and I will make sure that this does not interrupt my life. But that's a decision I make. In the moment, that's my choice. And everyone acts like they don't have the same choices, but they do. I've got fucking somewhere to be. My day didn't stop because some dude ran a red light and T-boned me. As long as I can still walk and I don't need to go to the hospital, I'm going about my business. That's just how I'm wired.
And the car's going to get fixed anyway.
It doesn't matter.
Right.
we're still going to have to make insurance claims. We're still going to have to do this. We're still going to have to do that. Like I can get on my phone. I can get on my phone. I can order a Lyft while I'm waiting for the Lyft. I can hop on Turo. I can rent a car. I can have the Lyft driver take me to the fucking Turo car. I can hop in the Turo car and I can be about my fucking business.
You're like Jason Bourne.
Yeah. Of
Jason Bourne just gets T-boned. He grabs a motorcycle, kills another assassin, and then he's on a yacht to Monaco and 5 minutes later.
And that's the stuff that's important. You know what I mean? Like you have to take care of you. You have to take care of your business. No one's doing any of that for you.
Right.
And so if you look out at the world and you think that the world's just going to take care of you because you're a good person and you exist, it's going to show you that it doesn't give a shit about you.
Right.
You know, you're part of your contributions to whatever. And there isn't, don't get me wrong, man. Like everyone thinks that they have to own their own business to be successful and do whatever they want. There's nothing wrong with a 9 to 5. Absolutely nothing wrong.
Nope.
If you're at a place, you think you're being valued well, you think that people are taking care of you, it's something that you enjoy, and it allows you to go home and play with your kids or finger paint or learn guitar or ride dirt bikes or you know, finger paint. I don't know what you do, but if that's what's nice for you and that's what you want to do and you have a 9 to, then go do that.
Paint away.
You know, I'm not going to knock you because you have an employer. I have no problems with that at all. But also, it's a choice you made. And so you can't be mad at somebody else that made different decisions from you and has a different life than you because there were certain things that you deemed that were important that you chose instead. And there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't make one better. It doesn't make one worse. Like, if I laugh the most when people leave a 9 to 5, then open a business and realize they're working twice as much now.
Yeah, that's always a revelation to people. It's a revelation for people.
Yeah, like, oh, I'm working 90 hours now, and sometimes I don't get a paycheck.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah, and the thing about it is that's just part of it. And then a lot of people decide that that's too hard, and then they quit, and then they go back to the workplace, and then they bitch that they're in the workplace, and it's weird. You know, I always do this talk about people that say I'm working on it. You know, how many people do you know that have a 9 to 5 have a side hustle?
Oh, yeah, a lot.
Most of them have had the side hustle for what? 5-6 years, maybe 7, maybe longer. And every time you talk to them, they want to make this side hustle their main hustle. But they always talk about, like, I'm working on making this big so I can quit my 9 to 5.
Yep.
I'm working on my anger. I'm working on drinking less. When you say I'm working on, it's just an excuse to keep doing it. Like, oh, I'm sorry I got angry. I'm working on it. Oh, I'm sorry I got blacked out drunk. I'm working on it. That's just an excuse. If you say I'm not going to be angry anymore and you shout it from the fucking rooftops and you end up getting angry, that's a completely different situation that you got to discuss with the people you got angry at.
Mm-hmm.
If you tell your family I'm not going to drink anymore and you get blacked out drunk and fucking hit a tree, you said you weren't going to drink anymore.
Right.
You know, now it's an uncomfortable conversation.
Yeah.
Now it's not I'm trying. You can't try. You either do or you don't do. The rest of it's a fucking story that you tell yourself so you can think that you're moving in a direction you're not really going in. It's the same people that go and listen to speakers talk every single weekend, 52 weeks out of the year. It makes them feel like they're doing something. Mm-hmm. When they go and get all of this information and knowledge and apply it nowhere.
Yep. Yeah, dude, that's rampant. Yeah, it's rampant. It's everywhere. And I see people and they always ask me, man, you're doing, you know, this and that and the other thing. I'm like, well, technically I'm doing the same thing I was 6 years ago. It's just like a different way of communicating it and doing it. And I've done the same thing the whole time, repeating the process over and over and over again and developing the skill set and the solution into something that can be monetized. And people don't want to do it and not get paid anything. So then they don't get good enough at doing anything at a level that's worth getting paid. And then they wonder why they're not getting paid. It's fucking crazy.
Everybody wants to hop on board when it's good. They don't want to hop on board when you're in your fucking basement, like lighting yourself on fire, trying to put something together, you know. But they're like, I'm going to stay away from open flames in you because this is just not a process that I trust.
Not working for you,
buddy. But like once you're like, oh, look, I have fire figured out. Everybody's like, oh, come over to my house. Like, no. Mm-mm. Like you didn't help with this. You don't get to ride the train. And it's fine. You know, like people will show you who they are, believe them and move forward. But yeah, it's weird. You start building stuff and then, oh, this is dumb. This is a joke. You're crazy. Whatever. I always see that people are like, if Steve Jobs came up to you in like the late 70s and was like, I'm going to make a phone that will be like a computer in your pocket. You'd have been like, bro, you need to go like get checked into a fucking ward because you are crazy. Like,
Right.
And people said that shit to him,
Yeah.
but look what happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I remember even being a kid and I went to school and they had the Apple IIgs. I remember we had like a Microsoft computer at home, but like the Apple was just built different. The Oregon Trail was just a little bit different on the Apple IIgs, man. It was something about it. And it also had this game. I don't know if anyone remembers this. It was called HyperCard. HyperCard for the Apple IIgs, and you could make these little cards and you could like move them and turn them into like scenes. So you could like click one card and it would take you here. We made our own little video games and shit and stories out of HyperCard. They need to bring back HyperCard. Steve or whoever out there, bring it back to the Apple.
He's dead. You can't talk to him.
There was just something different about the way that system worked creatively. I see now everything I use is Apple now. And you can almost tell because my streams look a whole lot different than everyone else's. I use an only Apple product. It's called Ecamm Live. It's only for Apple computers. And that's what I do all my streaming in. And it looks really, really clean. I just think there's something about that. And if you're looking, I love that analogy because if you're looking to be innovative, how are you making your interface or what you do super easy for people to use so that they get something tangible right away? And it's like what we were talking with the social media. Like, you're not going to sit around and film your social media. You're not just going to like sit around and buy a camera and like talk to the camera and post it. But when you pop in here, because you're going to pop in here at some point, we'll record some stuff and post it. So you got some examples, even of just what we do. And we've talked about that. I think it'll be cool for you to be like, dude, when I went in there 20 minutes on a lunch break, he kind of drilled me through some stuff. And now I've got these cool examples. Like, cool, what a cool service. But I think that you have to figure out what's innovative and how your passion meets the marketplace demand to really give people something they can use that's going to get them a result. And I think people think too much about making money than getting results and providing a service. Money, well, it comes from the service and the results.
Yep.
First.
And if you focus on the money, you end up getting yourself in trouble.
Right.
In fact, there's plenty of people that go out and they focus on generating revenue first, and then they can't service the revenue that they generated. And that causes you a whole new problem because you can only go to market once. So if you go to market and you screw everyone over, you can't go to market again. You already did it. And so you have to make sure that you're protecting it. Everybody wants to run fast and sprint, and they think if they get a capital injection that they can move faster. If your processes and systems and shit are fucked, it doesn't matter how much capital you have because everything's still going to break anyway. I think last time I checked, I have like 355 active ads running right now. And everyone's like, well, how do you even control all of that? It's just a point of understanding who your target demographic is and how you approach them. You do some that have people talking. There's some that are infotainment slides. There are some that are just still images. There's certain information that you give to certain different age groups in certain different regions. And all that stuff comes from experience, And I love it when people say, oh, we're at a point we're getting ready to hire a marketer. Okay, so have you done marketing before? Well, no. Okay. So what data are you setting these marketers that you're hiring against? How do you know if they're good or not? You're letting them bring their own KPIs in? That sounds very bad.
Yeah,
but
that
no one
doesn't
wants to
sound
jump in
smart.
and learn it because it takes too long.
Yeah, I always tell people when they want to market on social media, it's like, okay, well, what are we going to make content about? What is your offer? And if someone doesn't have a clear offer and a clear revenue generating source, we can't even take the clients anymore because you're just going to talk unless you're balling out of control. And I don't know about this, then you're going to get on and you're going to talk. And after a while, you're going to get annoyed because your offer's not converting because you don't have one.
Yep.
And so it's really, really important for people on the business end of this whole thing of us having a good time here to remember that What Jacob does in his business is they have specific things that they do for people, and whether he's the face of it or not doesn't matter. Could hire any face really to be in those businesses. But when you want to do any kind of business vertical, you got to think about what is it? And especially if you're going to build a personal brand on the internet, you don't want to become known over 6 months as this CBD guy. And then all of a sudden, a month later, you're this guy. And then 3 months later, you're the freaking NFT guy. And then you're the crypto guy 6 months later. And then it's just like, dude, no one knows what you do, because those kinds of people are not consistent enough to become great at anything. They just bounce all over the place for short-term income.
Well, and so part of that, I think, is rooted in narcissism. And before everybody flies off of the handle on it, in order for you to have your own business, you have to have some level of narcissism, because you have to have enough self-belief that this is something you can go and do. There's a healthy amount of narcissism that I think plays into being able to succeed when you go out on your own, because there has to be blind faith, right? That whatever is going to happen, you're going to figure it out. There's a lot of people that go to the other side of that. And there's an unhealthy amount of narcissism, and people covet that. And so they do whatever they can do to try and keep the eyes on them, because they want to be on stage. They want people to listen to them. They want the likes. They want the shares. They want all of that stuff. And they'll do anything they can. It's almost like a drug. And so they have this one offer, then they rip through everybody and burn them all out. Then they have this new offer, and it's an offshoot of this, and it's whatever. And then those people end up becoming the people that like source investment deals for a living. You know, oh, we're going around, we got this deal. It's a hotel, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you know, they're going to take 15% off the top. They're going to create a margin gap between you and the thing you're buying. But because these guys are fast talkers and have a bunch of likes and a bunch of shares, everybody immediately just sends them their money. And like, so as long as those people get all of those likes and they're in control and they're on the stage and they're doing the talking and they're in front of people, they can sell you whatever they want to sell, because they have all this edification. If someone's got 1,000 likes and 500 shares and they've got an offer out for some apartment complex and they're selling you a piece of an LLC and they only need 20 grand from you, well, like, gosh, I know a bunch of people that have sent this guy money. It must be legit. They do no vetting. And like, those people just run away with money. And eventually I feel like they all get caught. There's plenty of them out there that don't, because no one even knows how to prosecute people like that. And if they could, do they have enough money to hire an attorney for it? Because if they don't, it has to go federal. So it has to be big enough for the FBI to be like, yes, we would love to get involved in this. Otherwise, you're spending $400 on an hour for an attorney, because they can't do it. They can't do it on, God, what is the word I'm looking for? I was going to say consignment, but that's wrong. I think it's an assignment fee. Basically, they get a percentage of the settlement. There isn't going to be one. Those people spend all the money. Like,
no, I get it. Yeah, there's no return except the upfront hourly wage.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah.
So, it is what it is.
Dude, I absolutely love it, man. I appreciate the time today. We've been live for almost 1 full hour on Facebook. And before I get off the air with people, I always ask them if there was one thing someone could do. There's a lot of people that are younger. They've met me at a conference or talked to me in the hallway, and they're like, dude, I want to make it. Like, I got a big dream. I'm so inspired by your story. These are the best moments of any of those things that I've ever done, is the hallway conversations with a guy, a young kid, or a parent and their kid or something, and they're trying to make it. What's the one piece of advice you can give those people that they can implement this week to go out and start becoming something more than what they are right now to make a better life for themselves?
You need to develop non-negotiables. And you have to adhere to them and keep them all the time. Like my non-negotiables, for example, I go to bed at 8:30 every night, 7 days a week. Doesn't matter if I'm on vacation, whatever. I don't care who asks me to go to dinner. I don't care about birthday parties. That's when I go to bed. I wake up at 4:30. I go to the gym. Like those are things that make sure that I stay in my system. And my system is the reason why I have success. everything I do is predictable. Most people would know where I'm at during the day. They could predict how I'm going to react when certain things take place because I'm very consistent. So you can create non-negotiables and you can develop a system that's predictable for you to live in, and you can keep it consistent. It's very hard for you to get distracted or become reactive because things aren't happening to you, they're planned. And you've got control over all of it. So as long as you've got full control over your ecosystem, you're going to be fine, and it's going to be hard for you to miss. When you start letting people control your day, like I don't answer my phone. If it's not on my calendar, I won't answer it. Like if you were to look at my call log, it's all red. That's because if I answer that phone call, what happens to my day? It gets destroyed. Because now I'm on an hour phone call doing some stuff I didn't have planned. So non-negotiables are the biggest thing for me. I think are a starting block for success because it helps you understand how to manage yourself and manage expectation.
Dude, I love it. Straight fire. Jacob Stahler in the building, the digital building, all over the internet, going wild, 1 hour strong. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Iconic Messengers Show with your boy Pat Hilton, from the street corner to the business stage performer. And you can subscribe all over the internet. Make sure to follow Jacob. He might not accept your friend request. He's very picky about who gets into his ecosystem. So if you're one of the lucky ones, welcome. And thank you, sir, for your time. As always, it's a pleasure. And for you all out there, we will see you on the next one.